Hey everyone, thank you for joining. I'm just going to give a couple more minutes just in case we've got any latecomers. While we're waiting, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Faye Sherry. I'm one of the assessment consultants in the UK, and I'm joined by my colleagues Emma Kelly and Abby Pick, also assessment consultants in the UK, and they're going to be supporting me with the questions that you might have during this webinar. Okay. So thank you for joining everybody. I'm going to talk about the new digital assessment library for education today. I'm going to be covering what the digital assessment library is, both of our digital platforms, Q Global and Q Interactive, the DAL license options, some of the benefits of using our DAL, and then we're going to cover some FAQs and have some time for Q&A, and then next steps will be covered at the end as well. Just to make sure everybody's aware, the pricing mentioned during this presentation refers to prices excluding VAT and is obviously accurate today, which is the 11th of November. Anyone listening to this webinar in the future on a recording may not be seeing the accurate pricing. So, what is the Digital Assessment Library? It's a new way to flexibly access over 50 of our assessments. Traditionally, customers have purchased a la carte. You've purchased assessment materials individually and you've had to make decisions based on potentially funding constraints and what you've needed to assess as a priority. The new DAL option is made up of an annual subscription, which gives you access to over 50 digital assessment materials, and you would then pay as you go for the assessments that you choose to use. So as part of this, we have two digital platforms, Q Global and Q Interactive. So I'm going to just give a brief overview of these two platforms. At the end of this webinar, I will be sharing my email address, and if anybody does want to book in platform demonstrations and things like that prior to ordering, please feel free to do so. And some of you may already be using our digital platforms. So Q Global is a browser-based digital platform. This used to be, back in the day when it first sort of came out, it used to be a scoring platform. So you'd use your paper assessments and then at the end of that, you'd type in your scores and it would generate a report for you. It then evolved to have questionnaire-based assessments on there. They work really well as you can send out questionnaires remotely via an email link or complete them on screen. And then when the recipient has completed them, they'll come back to you and you can generate your report that way. And then we had a global pandemic. And during that time, we added lots and lots and lots of digital copies of manuals and stimulus books and things like that onto Q Global as well. So there's now over 50 assessments on there. Some of them are available in various different ways. Some of them are available just as a digital manual. Some of them you can actually administer a digital record form. But I do like to call it our digital cupboard. Assessments that are on Q Global are suitable for remote assessment and some face-to-face assessment as well. One important note is that an internet connection is required during assessments. And you will also get access to the Q Global video proctoring, which is an in-platform video conferencing software, so sort of like Zoom or Teams, but you can share your screen from within the platform rather than having to sort of juggle a third-party application as well. So that's Q Global. We've then got Q Interactive, which is a one-to-one iPad-based digital assessment system. Using two Apple iPads, you can administer, score and report various assessments. And this is suitable for face-to-face assessment. No internet connection is actually required during the assessment, unlike with Q Global. So I'm now going to cover the digital assessment library license options. So firstly, we've got the DAL Core license, which is Q Global access only. And this is made up of an annual subscription of £475, excluding VAT, per user per year. And this gives you unlimited access to all of the available digital assets on Q Global at your qualification level. So this is things like your digital copies of manuals, digital stimulus materials. There are over 50 assessments on there, as I mentioned. You may not use all of them. If you do want a full list of the assessments, please feel free to reach out to me at the end. And you also get the Q Global video proctoring included as well. Essentially, you can access more for less. Your ongoing costs as a DAL Core licensed customer would be for your usage of the assessments that you choose to use. As a DAL customer, you would unlock 10% discount on any Pearson purchases all year. This would be things like paper record forms, paper response booklets, any physical manipulatives that may be required, digital report credits for those questionnaire-based assessments I mentioned earlier, digital scoring subscriptions, and any assessment kits which are currently paper only would also be eligible for the 10% discount as well. So I have provided an example here. I think a lot of you are probably specialist assessors on here from people I've spoken to who've told me they've registered. So just to give you an idea of a comparison, if a specialist assessor was wanting to purchase the Wyatt 3 and the Dash 2 assessments individually, your Wyatt 3 complete kit would cost £803.30, and that would include paper manuals, paper stimulus materials, and 25 copies of the record forms and response booklets needed. Your Dash 2 complete kit would be £198.50 excluding VAT, and that again would include paper manuals, stimulus materials, and 25 copies of your record forms. So in total, this would come to £1,055.80 excluding VAT. If you were a DAL Core license customer using the Wyatt 3 and the Dash 2, you'd be paying £475 per year for your license, and that would give you access to the digital manuals and all the stimulus materials for the Wyatt 3, the Dash 2, and many more assessments. And you would then get 10% discount on any materials associated with those manuals and stimulus materials. So for these two assessments, you would need your record forms and your response booklets, and there's also an optional Wyatt 3 digital scoring subscription as well, which would give you unlimited report generation for 1 year for all of your paper assessments. Well, you type in from your paper record form and it would generate the report for you. In total, once that 10% discount has been applied to those materials, you'd be looking at spending £766.51 excluding VAT. So you can see quite a significant saving there, but the main benefit of doing it this way would be that you would have access to all of these other things as well. Some of the SASC approved tests that are included with the DAL Core licence include the Kaufman Test of Educational Achievement, the Wechsler Individual Achievement Test, the Woodcock Reading Mastery Tests, the Detailed Assessment of the Speed of Handwriting, the Wide Range Achievement Test, the Expressive Vocabulary Test, the Wide Range Intelligence Test, the Beery Visual Motor Integration Test, and the Ravens 2 as well. You may recognise or be using some of these tests already. For all of these, you would get access to digital manuals and stimulus materials. And some other tests that are included that you may not be as familiar with but would get access to would be the Sensory Profile 2, the Bot 3 Test of Motor Proficiency, the Shaywitz Dyslexia Screen, the Behavioural Assessment System for Children, Movement Assessment Battery for Children, And as I mentioned earlier, I do have a full list of all the assessments available at level B, which I would imagine most people in this call are in education. So please feel free to reach out to me and I can provide that full list for you. Things like the sensory profile and the BASC-3 and the Shaywitz dyslexia screen here are questionnaire-based assessments. So you would be able to send out those questionnaires remotely without needing any paper at all, and then generate your reports with the results that come back to you. Another license type that we have for the DAL is the enhanced license. So this one would include everything I have just mentioned with the core license, but you would also get access to Q Interactive as well. So this one, your annual subscription would be £975 per year per user. And you would get an education license on Q Interactive and 250 Q Interactive subtest credits. You would need 2 Apple iPads, and this would be for face-to-face assessment. And the assessments that you would be able to administer using the iPads would be the Wyatt-3, the RAT5, the KT3, the EBT3, the BBCS4, and the BSRA4. Most of those assessments I've just mentioned, you would have access to digital copies of the manuals and stimulus materials on the core license. So this is a little bit different because you would then be using these for face-to-face assessment on the iPads. Whereas with Q Global, you would be using those digital stimulus materials to share your screen, and you'd be using your paper record forms to score as you go along. Your ongoing costs with the enhanced license would be the same as the DAL core license. You would get your 10% discount off everything. The discount does apply to the subtest credits, which are usually £1.95 each. You do get 250 included, as I just mentioned. And to give you an idea of how quickly you would consume those credits, one Wyatt-3, RAT5 or KT3 subtest would consume half a credit. So you could use word reading and I don't know, spelling, and that would be 1 credit. For the Expressive Vocabulary Test 3 and the Bracken School Readiness Assessment, you would consume 3 subtest credits for the full assessment. Some benefits of the DAL, just to reiterate, if anyone has any questions as we're going through, just pop them in the chat or the Q&A box, whatever you can see, and we will address them all at the end. So some benefits of using the DAL. One of the biggest benefits here is that you will get access to more assessments than you've probably ever had before. Not only will you have access to more assessments than you had before, you will get automatic access to new versions of assessments. So for example, the Wyatt-4, when that's released in a few years, you wouldn't then need to purchase your Wyatt-4 up front as you have done in the past. You would just, as long as you've renewed your license, you'd get access to those digital materials. And instead of purchasing the Wyatt-3 paper forms or response booklets, you'd just start to purchase the Wyatt-4 ones. You've got much more flexible use of assessment by being able to look at manuals and stimulus books of things that you may not have seen before, may not be familiar with, and just may never have gone ahead with purchasing before. All of this enables you to make the right assessment choice for the pupil, rather than having to just sort of make do with what you've got in your cupboard, or if you're working in a school, what the school have got in their cupboard. Really enables you to choose the right assessment for the pupil. Obviously, you've got that discounted ongoing usage of the assessments. You can access digital materials on the go. As I mentioned earlier, Q Global is a browser-based platform, so you can access that on any device with a browser. So even on your phone, a laptop, a tablet, you can just access manuals and stimulus materials at any time. You've got digital scoring and reporting where available. Assessments such as the Wyatt-3, the RAT5, the KT3 all have digital scoring and reporting, which will obviously save you significant amounts of time. Q Interactive in particular is reported as engaging and child-friendly. As we know, kids are more familiar with iPads than ever before. Allows for better budget planning if you know what your license is going to cost each year and get a rough idea year on year how many forms and things you're going to need to purchase. It may even help schools to attract and retain talent. We know that SENCOs have a huge workload, and having access to all these assessments may be what you need to keep people. We do have platform and user level B training available. If anybody wants to know more about these training options, again, feel free to reach out or pop a question in the chat. Overall, this allows you to maximise early identification and intervention for better outcomes. Possibly even accept more work. From a lot of the specialist assessors that I've spoken to in my time at Pearson, I have heard people having to turn down work because they can't afford to purchase an assessment just for one piece of work with no guarantee of future work needing that same assessment. This digital assessment library will allow you to sort of dip in and out of assessments and just purchase maybe the forms or the credits that you need without that upfront cost for the kit. So is the DAL right for me? A few things to ask yourself. Will you be conducting any remote assessments? Again, you can use Q Interactive face-to-face and you can use your digital materials on Q Global face-to-face as well. But it is particularly good for people who are going to be conducting remote assessments. Are you starting out in your private practice and in need of an assessment library? The DAL is perfect for customers in this situation. Obviously, the old a la carte way, you'd have a really big outlay of cost for purchasing individual kits. This way you'll be able to get access to lots of things without those big upfront costs. Do you need flexible access to a variety of different assessments? And the big one for Q Global would be whether you have internet access while assessing. If you don't have internet access while assessing, the core license probably wouldn't be appropriate for you. I've put together a few FAQs and then there'll be time for some Q&As. So can I convert my existing Q Interactive and or Q Global account to a DAL account? Yes, you can. Your existing accounts will be converted and any current inventory will remain on your account and you'll continue to have access to your client data. If in future you decide you don't want to continue with the digital assessment library and you want to revert back to the account that you had before, anything that you had purchased prior to the DAL license, you would still have access to. Do I have to have a license for everyone that is a user on my Q Global DAL account? Yes, you will. So if you are in a school, for example, and you've got a couple of specialist assessors, you would need one license each. You wouldn't be able to share. What about assessments that are still paper only? So I did mention earlier, the 10% discount applies to everything that you purchase from Pearson as a DAL customer. So assessments such as the CTOP, the TOML, the TOWRI, the TOD, the ABAS, these currently are either paper only or not published by Pearson but sold, distributed by Pearson, so they're not available on the Q Global or Q Interactive platform. But as a DAL customer, this 10% discount would extend to those assessments as well. So, do we have any questions?
We've had a couple in the chat function, so I've just got back to them, but I'll cover it on here. So first of all, asking if everyone will get access to the slides after. But everyone who has attended and signed up will get access to the DAO webinar recording. And another question that we've had is, if you already have the paper version of one of the assessments, would you be able to access the digital version? And what's the cost of this?
Yes. So if you have you covered that one, Abby? Sorry.
Yeah, but you can go over it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you purchase your DAL license, you would get access to those digital materials, and you can use up the paper forms that you have alongside those digital materials. And then when the time comes that you need to replenish your forms, you'd be able to get them with that 10% discount. So
We've
I've
just
got
had,
another. Yeah, I
yeah,
can see it now.
go
I
on,
couldn't
you
see
can
them
read that.
before. So can you explain how this is different from an existing Q Interactive license where we already have access to a relatively large library of test batteries? What if I don't want it? What if I don't wish to use Q Global? So if you're already using Q Interactive and you don't wish to use Q Global, you would just continue as you are. Q Interactive is still available to purchase separately if you just wanted to use the iPad-based assessment system. The digital assessment library, the main feature and benefit of that is having access to all of these other things on Q Global. Just to add as well, when I went through the license options earlier, the core license, which is the Q Global test library, and then the enhanced license, which includes the education Q Interactive access. There are two other options as well. I haven't included them on the slides because this presentation was more focused on education. But there is a total license, which would be a psychologist's access. So you would get the standard license on Q Interactive, which has access to things like the WISC and the WACE, they are level C assessments. I wasn't sure if we were going to have any psychologists on this call, but it is worth mentioning. For the enhanced license as well, rather than choosing an education license, which has access to the Wyatt, the RAT, the KT, etc., that you saw on the slides earlier, I'll just go back to those slides if I can. I've gone too far. There is a speech and language license, is what I was going to say. So on this one here, for the same price, you can opt to have a speech and language license instead of an education license. So if you do have schools with speech and language therapists on site, you would get access to the KELF 5, the KELF preschool, the EVT 3, and a few more speech and language assessments as well. So just worth mentioning that. Health isn't included in the education license for Q Interactive, but you would get access to the KELF materials on Q Global, on the core license. So you would get access to the KELF manuals and stimulus books, and then you would just purchase the record forms if you wanted to use them. So what about educational psychologists? Is there a difference? So educational psychologists would be level C. So you would get access to the WISC, the WACE, those level C assessments. If anyone is unsure about what they would get access to at their qualification level, this presentation was more aimed at level B education sort of side of things. But if any educational psychologists are on here and want to reach out to me, I can provide a full list of everything that you would get access to as well. Just to reiterate, the main difference between the two license types is the Q Global digital library gives you access to the digital materials such as manuals and stimulus books for everything at level B or at level C, if you've got the level C qualification. Q Interactive is the enhanced license, which is everything that you would get on Q Global plus the iPad-based part as well. The iPad-based part may not be for everyone. I think there is a lot more on the iPad-based Q Interactive system for psychologists than there is for level B. But again, please feel free to reach out to me for any clarification on what you would personally get access to on these licenses. So what is next? So if you'd like to place an order, request a quote based on your individual needs and the assessments that you personally would use, if you want to ask any questions and or discuss anything else DAL related, please do reach out. Again, as I mentioned, I can provide a full list of assessments that you'd get access to at your qualification level. And some good news for any orders placed in November, we've managed to get an increased DAL discount of 20% on materials purchased alongside your licence, and this will revert back to 10% for subsequent orders. So if you're in a position where you have been on the fence, there's never a better time really to go ahead and get those record forms and everything ordered alongside. Again, if you would like to request a quote for everything that you need, we can do that for you as well. I've included my email address and my colleague Noor, just in case there's anybody based internationally on this webinar. Please feel free to reach out to Noor if you're an international customer. If you're a UK customer, please email me. Got another question. Do you sell the IDS2 materials? No, the IDS2 isn't one of ours. Is Q Global still active as normal? So if I don't upgrade to the DAL, I can carry on as normal? Absolutely, yes. The DAL won't be the right option for everyone, but it will be a great option for some. Everything is still available to purchase as it was before. You just have this as an option. So the Q Global assessments that you just would like to purchase individually, you can still do. If you've already bought a lot of things on Q Global, again, there may not really then be a need for you to purchase this as well. You can just continue to use what you've got already. Same with the earlier question about Q Interactive. If you're already using Q Interactive and you don't have any desire to use Q Global, just carry on as you are. Someone has asked if Ireland comes under international as we are not part of the UK. Yes, so unless you're based in Northern Ireland, and then you can contact me, everybody else would email Noor. It's worth also mentioning that we usually do see price increases in January each year. So again, if you are on the fence or have just been sort of waiting for this webinar to make your decision, orders placed in November will get this increased discount of 20%. If you're in a position where you can't place an order in November, if you do order in December, you will avoid next year's price increases as well for record forms and things. So again, there's never been a better time to order.